This is the Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, Bo Cook from Loan Market, BTZD, the official apparel partner of the Paracave Podcast, and the Parramatta Times, the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. Troy Warner here, and this is the replay chat of the chat that I have with the Duckman on Pulse FM 89.9 FM every Friday and Sunday. So this is the Sunday chat, and we reviewed the week that was in the NRL. We also talk about the NRLW as well. So it was the last final. It was a final round of the regular season in the NRL, round 27, and there was a lot of players not playing. There was players making their debut, and a couple of crucial games with results for teams that are trying to get into the top 8, and also positions in the top 4 and top 8. So some of the games we talk about, obviously Broncos Storm, the Rabbitohs and Roosters, the Panthers and Cowboys, and the Sharks and Raiders. So this is a replay chat of the talk I have with the Duckman on Pulse FM. We also talk about the NRLW as well. It was round number 7 in the NRLW as well. So we touch on that. And we also talk about top point scorers in the NRL, or in rugby league in general from over the years, and a little bit about Jason Taylor as well. So hope you enjoyed this one, and thank you very much for listening. I'll now hand it over to the Duckman.
All right, there we go. That was Shania Twain with That Don't Impress Me Much. That definitely did impress me very much back in the 90s and the early 2000s. Shania Twain. The birthday the other day, trying to think, it was Friday or Saturday. So, because when you see a birthday, the actual date, we celebrate it in Australia as the day before the Americans do, hence the time difference, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going through the whole backstory of it. But, yeah, she got to celebrate her birthday twice. 58 years old. Troy, what do you think about that? And got Troy Warner on from the Paracave Podcast, everyone now. Shania Twain, 58 years old.
Yeah, g'day, Duckman. Good evening to your listeners, and happy Father's Day to all your listeners as well out there. Hope you've had a great day. Yeah, 58 years old. Wow, I remember in the 90s watching on the, what was it, old rave shows on Channel 2 of a Saturday Rage. Yeah, not rave. On a Saturday morning, seeing her film clips come up. But yeah, wow, 58 years old. Makes you feel old, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's scary. So it's funny when the penny drops. Well, oh wow, all these people getting. Everyone is, but you don't realise sometimes till you go. I've been listening to her for a little while. I've got a couple of CDs going. Oh wow, they're like 25 years old now, nearly 30 years old. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then realise that time's catching up with us as well.
That's it.
We'll kick on anyway. So we'll start off with the NRLW. So it's round 7 of the NRLW just gone this weekend. And there were some good games. There were some blowouts in the scores, which probably not surprising me considering there's still a couple of new teams. Still in its infancy a fair bit. And with the distribution of players around this year to go different places, it's a little bit similar at the moment, I suppose, to what happened with the AFLW in the first year too. So this weekend, Raiders took on the Knights there, and the Knights got up 20 points to 12. Did you catch any of that game on Friday night?
Yeah, this game was played down at GIO Stadium down in Canberra yesterday afternoon. And the Raiders, they really stood up and gave it to the Knights in the first half, and they really showed that they could be a force to be reckoned with, because they've been playing some pretty good footy over the last month, and they went into half-time 10-0 up, but then the Premiers, the Newcastle Knights, they came back in the second half and scored a try right after half-time, and then just Jessie Southwell, the halfback for the Newcastle Knights, just showed her class, scored a great try, and kicked the goals to get the Newcastle Knights the victory over the Raiders.
Yeah, they might have lost Millie Boyle this year, but they're still a very good side, that Newcastle Knights side, so they're going to be a big threat when it gets to finals time in the comp. The Broncos took on the Sharks and won 32-28. No surprise there. Ali Brigginshaw, she is an exceptional player, very good halfback, and I was watching her kicking the other day too. Her kicking is very good as well, goal kicking and in general play.
Yeah, for sure. She's a legend of the women's game. Ali Brigginshaw, Australia, Queensland, and the Broncos as well, has won premierships and is really leading this side around. It's a little bit of a different side this year with more teams coming in. They've lost a couple of players more than regular. They'd be disappointed in missing out on the finals last year, and the Broncos, they've been playing some good footy in the last few weeks, and this was a tough game against the Sharks, a new team in the competition, but as you said, just the class of Ali Brigginshaw just really shone through, and they got the win in the game against the Sharks, and that game was up in Townsville, and they're getting a lot more confidence, and they're back in the top four.
Yeah, so and they look pretty good too. So they're one of the sides, just based on experience and the quality players they got, they would have to be considered a serious threat in the competition when it gets to finals time. In this next game, Cowboys took on the Dragons, and the Dragons went through the Cowboys pretty severely there, 48 points to 16. Big win. Cowboys is their first year, and the Dragons have been around for a while. They also pushed for grand final spots last year but didn't make it.
Yeah, the class of the Dragons just really shone through there. It was a part of a double header up there in Townsville. Unfortunately, the Cowboys, another new side in the competition, just didn't really have any answers for the Dragons. It was 28-6 at half-time, and look, the writing was on the wall there at half-time, and the Dragons just completed that in the second half and really blew the score away. And look, it'll be a learning lesson, I guess, for the Cowboys, but the Dragons, they're getting even more confidence in winning games, and hopefully they can make the finals, make a charge for the finals.
Yeah, I think they will. They've got a pretty good side there, and they're really looking pretty balanced. I'm not sure they're going to go very far in the finals, but you get there, get the experience, get the pressure and that stuff on the players. It helps them develop, and they'll be better for that next year. The Titans, they had a good win today, or I think it was today. It was 16-4 against West Tigers there in one of the other NRLW games there.
Yeah, this game was played before the men's game up there at the Gold Coast, so double-header up there for the fans. And look, this was a really sort of a close game for a long time. It was only 6-4 at half-time, and the Tigers, they didn't score in the second half, but it was a really close game for a long time. The Titans, they scored just after half-time, and then they pretty much put the win away in the 67th minute. So, look, not a convincing win, but the Titans got the job done, and they sit in third position now on the ladder, and they'll be wanting to play finals football.
Yeah, absolutely. And this last NRLW game here, the Roosters up against the Eels. The Roosters did this in good form, 46 points to 12. Big win over the young, inexperienced Eels side, but the Roosters, I'd say, they look like the red-hot favourites at the moment, and you can't write off the Broncos when they get there because of the amount of experience they've got. So I can really see probably only four sides got a legitimate chance of winning this now. The Knights, the Broncos, the Roosters, and perhaps the Dragons. So the Sharks might get there, but I just don't think so.
Yeah, look, the Eels, they went into this game with a little bit of confidence, having their first win of the season last weekend. but it was always going to be a big task playing against the Roosters, who are star-studded, and they are in form. I think they go back to the top of the ladder now in the NRLW. Look, it was 22-2 at half-time, probably Richie Bene's favourite half-time score there, but... and the Eels, unfortunately, just didn't have any answers for the Roosters. Their class just stood out, and look, they just scored try after try, unfortunately. Jessica Sergis got a double. The one pleasing, good effort, a great effort, was Kimberly Hunt scoring a try in the 69th minute just before, or right on full time. A cross-field kick from Rachel Pearson found the mark, and a great catch by Kimberly, and she scored in the corner. So, look, it's been a bit of a season to forget at the moment for the Eels. Hopefully they can get a couple of wins in the last couple of weeks of the competition.
I think they probably will too. So they've got a decent side. They're building up, but there's a couple of levels. There's a few tiers in the NRLW at the moment. That will improve over the next few years as there's more teams, more players, and all this continues to happen. There's a bit more experience as well. We'll kick on to the NRL now. So back on Thursday night, I had Broncos take on the Storm. Broncos, I've had to think about this. I would have tried to go for it if I was the Broncos to win the minor premiership. They only needed a draw, right? In the end, they lost by 10, but I think Melbourne did it pretty easy, didn't they? 32-22. I think the Broncos got back into the game after the Storm were already up.
Yeah, look, this was anybody's game going into half-time. It was 14-12 to the Storm. The Broncos actually led 12-0, and then the Storm have come back and led at half-time, and then it got to 20-all. The Broncos got a penalty goal, 22-20, and then the Storm just took over after that. Remus Smith got sin bin, had come back 10 minutes later and scored a try, and then the Melbourne Storm just ran out with the victory. So, yeah, look, I don't know if the Broncos will be ruining that decision to rest their players with a shot at the minor premiership. Obviously, the minor premiership, I think, is $200,000 to win that, and obviously get that prestige of that first place in the competition after the regular season. But look, they finished second now. They still get a home final. They still get 2 bites at the cherry as well. So they've obviously got their eyes on the bigger prize rather than the Panthers, who ran out a pretty much a full strength side, which we'll talk about shortly.
Yeah, that's right. So the Broncos lost there. What that means next week for everyone that doesn't know, the Broncos will now be playing the Storm in the first week up at Brisbane. Again, I do like the Broncos. So the Broncos are in a better position playing-wise with who's available and who's not available than Brisbane are at this stage. So Jerome Hughes, as far as we know, is still out. So we'll keep on kicking on, but so just consider that when we're talking about what's going to happen next week or not happen next week. The next game here, so this one was close until the kickoff. So the Seagulls against West Tigers. I did throw out a bit of a hypothetical one there the other day. If West Tigers could win by about 70, or win by at least 40, and St George lose by at least 30, that they might be able to do this. Well, St George did their part. The West Tigers, yeah, you let me down. So I was hopeful you might do it. Didn't think you would win, but I was hopeful that you might pull off an upset and come second last, and that would have been a successful year for you guys, I think. But they lost in a bit of a tight battle to start off with. Anyway, 54-12 against the Seagulls, who did look very good in that game.
Yeah, look, when it's 4 Pines Park, Brookvale, 16,500, Jake Travojevich's 200th game. You've got a last game of the season for both clubs. It's all up against you for the old West Tigers. And the Sea Eagles, they scored a try in the very first set of the game. So it was all downhill there for the Tigers, unfortunately. And Daly Cherry Evans, he just basically ran the side around. Hamoli Olakauatu as well, he had a blinder. He led that first try. He broke the line and passed off to Kula for the try. So he was sensational all night. Jason Saab got a double. Even Jake Trbojevic got a try as well after a handoff from Daly Cherry Evans. He could have got a double, but he saw Jake coming and just passed the ball inside to him to get a try in his 200. So that was pretty good. 26-6 at half time. I don't think the Tigers were ever going to come back from that. They had a try disallowed to Isaiah Papali'i, which at the time most fans and even commentators are saying, look, just give the Tigers a try. Like, they're being beat by 50 anyway, so just give them the try anyway. But yeah, big win and a good way for the Sea Eagles to finish off the season, and they'll learn from this season and hopefully come back next year.
Yeah, I heard a few West Tigers fans say, oh, we got a Doug call and the Doug call cost us the game. It didn't cost you a 9-try loss. So I'm telling you that no matter how bad the call was, it didn't stop. Like, that call didn't cause the 9 tries and didn't cause you to only score 2. So perhaps you could have scored 3, maybe even 4. But Seagulls scored 9, so let's have a think about that big picture stuff there. We'll keep going. It just makes me frustrated when I hear that. It's dumb. So kick on to the next game, which was the game of the round. Now, I thought it would be. It was a bit of a fizzer, to be honest with you. Rabbitohs against the Roosters. The Roosters ended up getting up 26-12. They had to win. The Rabbitohs also had to win. I thought they might have had the mental edge, and they couldn't get it done. So that now puts the Roosters in the finals, and they'd be a dark horse now to be able to win the comp because they actually have the quality in the squad to do it if they can turn it on the day.
Yeah, look, all week leading up to this game, everyone was excited for it because we knew that the winner would probably play finals. There was no guarantee at the time whoever won would play finals. It had to wait for other results in the competition on the weekend. But two arch rivals, the Book of Feuds game, Rabbitohs versus the Roosters. Latrell was out, Jared Warrior-Hargreaves was out, suspended. So it was a must-win game for both clubs. The Rabbitohs, they had a little bit of turmoil during the week of their bye week, which saw Sam Burgess leave the club. So a lot of rumblings there. They don't think there's too much rumblings inside the camp, but looking outside the camp, from what we've seen in the media, there is a little bit of rumblings there. And the Roosters, well, they're now won 5 in a row and find themselves in the 8 and another finals opportunity. I think Trent Robinson has only not coached a Roosters side. They've only missed out once in 10 years that he's coached, so on finals. So that's a pretty good record there. So they'll be better for the run. Sam Walker, he was outstanding in this game. He scored a try. He set up a couple. He made some great tackles, some try-saving tackles, and it's great to see him back into first grade. I think it was only his second game back from injury and New South Wales Cup, so great to see him back, and he was probably the man of the match.
Yeah, he was pretty good so the other day, so he can turn it on when he wants to. He's only young though, so the consistency's probably not there yet to be a star. I'm not sure how good he'll be, but he'll be a solid first grade player. So I know Queensland are looking at him, aren't they, for their emerging squads in the future. So they hold him in high opinion there. So if he does kick on.
Yeah, for sure. He's been in and around and mentioned for Queensland Origin. Obviously, he had a breakout year, I think, last year. This year hasn't gone that good for him. As I said, playing New South Wales Cup and injury as well, being dropped back to New South Wales Cup. But it's great to see. And with Daly Cherry Evans now, I think, turning 34, I think, this year, he said today that he still wants to play representative football because he doesn't want to just give it away and regret that decision. So he will probably only have he'll play representative football as long as he's playing football for, which may be only 1 or 2 more years to go, which will see him 35, 36. So potentially Sam Walker might be the next halfback up because Ben Hunt as well, he's getting on that other side of 30 as well, so as a halfback option for Queensland. But yeah, definitely Sam Walker would be thought of in that Queensland side in the future.
Yeah, there we go. So, yeah, he will keep on working his way up and get up there. The next game, so we threw out a couple of variables the other day and said if the Dolphins had a 1 against the Warriors and they could win by 3 more than what the Titans did, they'd jump them in the table. That happened. That actually, I didn't know if it would. It actually did. Now, the Dolphins won 34-10 against the Warriors. Warriors, they look happy. They're just going through the motions. They picked up no injuries. Would have been probably happy to get a win. They weren't too fussed that they lost, but they've still got a finals game locked in against the Panthers. And Dolphins will be very happy with the result of that game. It's a good way to finish off their first season.
Yeah, definitely. As you said, they leapfrogged the Titans into 13th position, so that's probably, I would think, a pass mark for them. Obviously, the teams want to play finals, but a new team into the competition is always going to be hard for them to make finals first year. And look, they'll learn from this year. They had some injuries, suspensions. Obviously, that state of origin period, they had a few representative players as well. So, look, they'll learn from that. They started off the year really strong and they had some great wins. The first win of the year was against the Roosters in round 1. And they had some good wins. They were on a bit of a streak there, and then they hit a bit of a patch. And then they've played some okay football in the last, at the back end of the season. So, look, they'll learn from that. They went out with a bang against the Warriors, who were a different side to what we have, so what we will see next week. Obviously, they were resting players as well. So, look, the Warriors, they probably rested those players just to give them a rest and also give the other guys a go as well, just in case as well to play some football, because the Warriors were going to finish in the top 4 anyway, so it didn't matter if they won or lost. They were only playing for pride as well. Obviously, they want to win the game, but the Dolphins, they ran out winners, 22-0 at half-time, and you could probably sense that it was over at half-time, and yeah, great way to see the Dolphins end their 2023 season.
Yeah, it's a good way for it to go. And like I said, the Warriors looked happy in the finals for the first time in a while, and they look like a serious threat too. The next game, so Panthers absolutely, this one was one of the ones that's going to depend on Penrith's attitude. What's going to happen? Did they really care about it or not? They said all the right things about talking about playing for the minor premiership, then went out there and did the business against Cowboys. If they had a loss, the Raiders were gone. So Penrith didn't just win, they smoked them 44 points to 12. So big display, missing like quite a few players too. They were a mile ahead of the Cowboys. They were like a whole level above them. It was like watching a first grade side against a reserve grade side.
Yeah, well, last year these two teams played in the last round and Penrith rested everyone. This year they put pretty much a full-strength side in there. Obviously still missing Mitch Kenny and Jerome Luai, who's out injured. But other than that, it was pretty much full strength. And look, the Cowboys, they had everything to play for. They win, they play finals. If they lose, they're gone. So they knew the equation. The Panthers, they win, they get the minor premiership. They lose, they don't get that minor premiership, which I heard a few weeks ago they weren't massively concerned about that. Their eyes are on the big prize, the three-peat. So, but they made all intention. They wanted to make a statement after losing to Parramatta last week at home, and they made a statement this week as well against the Cowboys, winning 44 points to 12. Stephen Crichton scored the first try of the game, and he had a wow of a game. So obviously the Bulldogs are getting a good one there. But yeah, the Panthers, they won their third minor premiership in 4 years, and they look pretty comfortable at the moment. And look, they'll probably have a couple of players come back. Scott Sorensen, Mitch Kenny next week maybe. Jerome Luai will probably come back in the prelim final if they make that far. And they'll have a full house there at Bluebet Stadium next week again as well.
Yeah, you've got to imagine that Penrith will probably make the prelim final. At the moment, from what I can see from the competition, is Penrith against Warriors next week. Penrith are probably going to win it without too many problems. The next game will be, who I think the other grand finalists will be, Brisbane and Melbourne. If Melbourne can win, I actually think Melbourne could potentially play Brisbane in the grand final. The reason why I think that is I think Penrith could have troubles coming up against whoever they get in the next week, depending on what happens with Jerome Lua. So if the Roosters win, I think they drop into Penrith's side as well of the finals. I haven't had a look at all the permutations, but I know that whoever loses that Broncos and Melbourne game, they're going to drop in Penrith's side. So there's every possibility could have a Melbourne and Brisbane grand final or a Penrith versus Melbourne grand final as well. So everyone at the moment would probably predict Penrith versus Brisbane, but wouldn't surprise me if Melbourne can get the business done. So they've got the good quality players there to do it. So, and the experience as well. We'll see how it all goes. The next game, the Dragons took on the Knights. The Knights went through the motions. They got the win. Dragons, I reckon they looked flat. So maybe it's just been a long year, mentally a little bit jaded. They were all right, but the Knights just went through the motions. It's just a little bit too easy.
Yeah, this was actually a pretty entertaining game, actually. 32 points to 12. The Knights getting the victory. They're 9th in a row now. They get a home final next week. Ben Hunt, he scored a good chip and chase try for the Dragons, but other than that, there wasn't too many highlights. But the real highlights were Dominic Young's tries in the last 5 minutes of the game. His first one was absolutely amazing. Moses Sully's come over and tried to make a tackle on Dominic and is basically sort of flipped him in the air, and he's basically come down and put the ball down. And check out the footage. I'm sure it's been played on pretty much every news channel and whatever, on Fox as well. But yeah, check that try out. YouTube it if you want. Check it out. Absolutely amazing. And even his second try as well, he still had a lot of work to do. And he got the try there in the 78th minute, and he now holds the try scoring record in the season for the Newcastle Knights. So congratulations to him. He's obviously off to the Sydney Roosters next year, so they're going to miss his try scoring ability. But Tyson Gamble, he was another one who played really well last night, and it's a positive that potentially Kalen Ponga will come back next week, and a few other, Tyson Frizzell and Phoenix Crossland as well will come back as well, and a few others, just to make that a full strength side, and they'll get a full house up there in Newcastle against the Roosters next week.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that game goes. So I do think one of those sides will get, so they're going to have some sort of half-decent run here and get to the game before the grand final, so grand final qualifier. I genuinely think they're going to cause problems for the next team they come up with after that as well. So they are serious chances of being able to make the grand final.
Yeah, sorry. Newcastle are playing the Raiders next week in Newcastle.
Yeah, so I would be able to think they're going to win that pretty easy, and then it's going to set the Roosters up then as well. See how they go. They're the two best chances, I think, outside of probably Penrith and Melbourne at the moment. But Brisbane fans aren't going to like hearing that. But I just think Brisbane will go close, but not quite get there. So the next game, we said this one would be a touch footy-a-thon. It absolutely was. The Titans against the Bulldogs. They just went, let's see who can score more here. And tackling, well, actually we're going for it defensive-wise, but they're throwing the ball around. Never won to lose. You could see that straight off the bat. I think the penny must have dropped for the Titans too. Like, hang on, the Dolphins might get over us here. We need to beat them by, beat the Bulldogs by whatever the Dolphins do, and either beat them so we're losing by less than 3 or beating them by more than that so we can finish higher on the ladder. But didn't work like that in the end, unfortunately, for them.
No, really entertaining game for fans who were there. A lot of points scored, and if you could have told me that Kieran Foran would have scored the first 2 tries of the game, then you would have been a genius. He ended up getting 3, his first career hat-trick in the NRL. He thought he'd never get one. He was close against Parramatta in Magic Round, in round 10, I think it was, but today he actually got one, and Josh Adokar got a triple as well for the Bulldogs. So 2 players on opposite sides got a triple in this game, and a lot of points scored. It didn't really have any meaning at all in terms of, the only reason would be for pride to win the game. Titans' last home game of the year, Bulldogs' last game of the year. They've had a lot of dramas in the past week, as we all know about. So they probably wanted to get the win just to sort of soften those outside noise a little bit as well. But look, it was an okay game to watch. I think I was watching the Eels and Roosters NRLW game as well on the split screen at the time. So the Bulldogs did score a good try to Josh Adokar late in the game after Hayes Perra made a break and kicked inside for Josh, and that was a great try there. So good way for the Titans to finish. And the Bulldogs, well, they'll go into the off-season with obviously a lot of work to do going into next season. They get a few new recruits next year, Blake Taff, Stephen Crichton, Jamin Salmon as well. So they get a few new recruits, and they'll look at this year, do the review. Gus Gould will be in there doing the review, and Cameron Ciraldo, and they'll just have to see what they have to do different to improve for next year.
Yeah, that's right. So I just can't work out why there is so much noise there. So I don't know if you saw it. We'll talk about it after we talk about the next game here. The Sharks against the Raiders. The Sharks got up today 24-6. The Raiders probably, I think they both did their best. The Raiders would have been happy that they dodged a bullet when Penrith beat the Cowboys. So as would have been expected too, by the way, but they were gone if the Cowboys had a won.
Yeah, look, I think the Raiders would have wanted to win this game anyway, just going into semi-finals, just to give them a little bit of confidence. It was a little bit of a semi-final feel as well anyway. The Raiders went into half-time 6-4 in front, so there wasn't a lot of points scored in this game, but so there was a little bit of incentive for both these sides to win this game. The winner would have a home final week 1, so the Sharks, they would have wanted to do that after last year's 2-week capitulation in the finals last year. So, look, it was a close game in the first half, and then I think once Cronulla got in front, and then there was a dangerous tackle by Sebastian Chris on Sione Katoa, who landed on his head, and fortunately he is okay. He got back up and played on after that tackle, but you could see that it was pretty much a straight send-off as well, because it was a very dangerous position, and the referee had no choice as to send him off. And if he wasn't sent off, well, then there would have been a lot of questions asked as to why. But there was no intent in the tackle. It just simply went wrong. Fortunately, he didn't keep on driving into the ground, which would have made it worse. But fortunately, Sione's okay and played on. So, look, the Raiders, they'll be disappointed they lost that game. But I think after that send-off, they were a man down, and Cronulla exposed that and ended up scoring points and tries and just running away with the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So the things I wanted to talk about, so they're around Canterbury Bulldogs at the moment. What we're going to talk about is Jason Taylor. So is on the radar there, and we're going to have a look at the all-time top point scorers on the back of Jason Taylor getting nominated. So as a point scorer, all-time point scorer, he's number 7 on the list. So sitting behind Andrew Johns, Jonathan Thurston, Adam Reynolds, Jared Croker, Hasmel Masri in number 2, and Cameron Smith sits at number 1. JT finished with 2,107 points. So, and he had played for a very long time, did a good job. So there's one person way back down the list in 26 at the moment who's number 54 onto the list, Nathan Cleary. Reason why Nathan is on that list now, so I reckon what's he, 23 or something now, 24? Surely he's got another 10 years, so he's going to double his playing career. He's only played for 7 years in the NRL. When he made his first grade debut here, he might overtake all these guys and end up on top. So you'd think that's a very, very real possibility, and he'll only be in his mid-30s when he does it.
Well, certainly Nathan's got a few bragging rights at the moment, doesn't he? He's
overtook his dad today too.
Yeah, he's got, 12 more
12 points more.
12 more points than his dad in his playing career. So he jumps up to 26th position, and Ivan is 27, and Nathan's won a couple of premierships as well. So he's got a few bragging rights in that family. But yeah, look, there's no reason why Nathan won't climb up that ladder of points. Scored. He'll jump up a couple of spots maybe this year as well. But look, just looking at that list, I remember back in the day of when Mick Cronin held the record at 1,971 points when he was playing for Parramatta, and he held that for a long time, from 1986 to 1995 when Darryl Halligan took over that mantle. But I was at that game when Jason Taylor broke the record. I think it was a goal kick against the North Queensland Cowboys, I think. I was at that game at Parramatta Stadium, as it was known back in the day, and I think pretty much his mates ran on the field or something, and security escorted them off the field, and it was a great day there at Parramatta Stadium. And I've got, actually, in the Paracave, I've got a little homemade sort of framed picture of JT, and back in the day when we had those still cameras, I took a few photos of those and got those developed. So great memory that day.
So to be honest with you, that was a grand final of that one there in 2000. That's the one I thought, 2001. That's the one I thought Parramatta had their best chance ever since 1986. So I don't think they've had a better chance to win the grand final. Even last year, I don't think last year's side was as good as that side with Jason Taylor steering them around as halfback against the Knights. And the Knights just shell-shocked them at the start of the game. That was... it was over in the first half. It's still 24-0 or whatever at half-time. So 24-6 or whatever it was. Yeah,
24-0 at half-time. Ben Kennedy had a field day out in the edge. Andrew Johns as well. He led the team around. And, yeah, it was pretty much gone after half-time, 24-0. Although the Parramatta did come back in the second half, they got it, but then Newcastle scored a try, and it ended up being 30 points to 24. And I've always said that potentially if it was 5 minutes longer, Parramatta had that roll on, they probably could have got back to 30 all, and then anything could happen. But yeah, you're right, that was their best chance to win a comp since 86. Unfortunately, they scored. They didn't get the job done. They scored a point scoring record throughout the season, but didn't get the job done. But yeah, unfortunately in that year. But to some of these other point scorers here, we see, obviously Cameron Smith, he holds a lot of records in rugby league, and this is just one of them. Who knows whether he'll get taken over, but Adam Reynolds is about 500 points behind. He probably won't break that record. Jared Croker, he's retiring this year anyway as well. He sits in third spot there. So maybe Nathan Cleary is the best chance to overtake that record in the future sometime.
Yeah, I would think he's the one. So Latrell potentially could too if he doesn't get serious injuries to his legs or anything, can keep scoring a lot of tries and goals. It's not really the designated goal kicker all the time, but for South Sydney, so that's going to be what's probably going to peg him back from being able to get up there much higher than probably what he'll go up through the list, but he's not probably going to threaten and getting in the top two or three, because Cameron Smith is a fair way ahead of anybody else.
Yeah, well, Cameron played for 18, 20 seasons, so...
nearly 400 games or something like that.
Yeah, so over 400, I think it was. So, and I think he played till 37, 38. So, he just had that longevity in the game, and obviously he didn't get that many injuries throughout his career. So he had a longevity in the game and played over 400 games, as we mentioned. So. Latrell, he can suffer some injuries as well. He's had some throughout his career, so if he can stack some games together, he, as you said, he'll climb up that list for sure. But I don't think he'll get the top point scorer. As I said, I think Nathan Cleary will be the one that will give that a really good shake.
Yeah, absolutely. So what have you got coming up in the Paracade podcast this week, Troy?
Well, tomorrow, a replay of this chat that we've just had. I'm talking to Dennis Carnahan tomorrow, doing an interview with him for release on Thursday. Doing a couple of other interviews as well during the week. I'll have a week 1 tipping podcast of the finals, and I'm hoping to get a special guest to give me some analysis on that as well throughout the week and release that as a podcast. And yeah, so I'll have a tipping podcast, a replay of this chat, an interview podcast, and a couple of other chats, and then we'll chat on Friday night again.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking forward to that and running through all the permutations. I've got so many things running through my head at the moment, thinking about who's going to play who, what could happen if this person does this or that. And I love this time of year talking about the footy finals. And
yeah, it's the best time of year, footy finals. And we got a bit of a taste of it with a couple of games this weekend. But now that everything's been settled, we know who's playing and who's playing where. It's a great time of year. Look, even if your team's not in it, like myself, so with Parramatta not being there, but it's a great time of year to watch football. These are the 8 best teams in the competition after the regular season, so they're after that prize of the premiership.
That's it, absolutely. Troy, thanks very much for your time. I appreciate it. Again, it's always very good. Love having a chat, and we'll catch up with you again on Friday night next week.
Not a problem, Duckman. Thank you very much for having me once again.
There you go. No worries. We'll chat to you next week, Troy. So.
Thanks, mate. Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Paracade Podcast.